Sawadee which is hi in Thai. You're listening to the Thai Girl for God radio show under the Paratruth Radio Network. What I do is interview interesting guests who talk about their expertise and experience from a Christian perspective. I hope you enjoy listening to the podcast. God bless you. Okay, thanks so much for tuning in to the Thai Girl for God radio show. And I have a very special guest. This is Brother Vall Owens. He is the founder of wokejournalist.com. He believes in Jesus Christ, and he's a follower of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He has an impenetrable drive for truth and research. He is a husband, father of 4 kids, a programmer, researcher, entrepreneur, and more. He's been researching in the truth community for almost a decade now. Welcome, Vall.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, Vall?
I'm doing great. Despite the current atmosphere in the world.
Amen. Right. And I think without God, it's very difficult to get through this without losing one's mind, because I know that the stress is really getting to people, believers as well as non-believers. I don't know how anyone can get through it without God. So I was really impressed when I listened to your interview with Justin Fall as well as with Rob Skiba. And in fact, that's what inspired me to reactivate my podcast, which has been dormant for quite a while. I was actively podcasting, interviewing people from 2015 to 2018 for 3 years, and then I just fell off the cliff because a lot of things happened in our lives, like financial issues and my stepbrother dying and moving and just lots of upheavals in our life. So I wanted to restart it with somebody such as yourself, who can talk about current events from a personal and professional perspective. So Vall, if you could please share your testimonial, especially with regards to your turning point to God and what happened to you and your family in the music industry and such.
No problem. Where do I start? I'm the son of a Baptist minister. My journey to truth, I always tell people in itself could be something like a movie. I spent 10 years chasing the fame, 4 years working for Def Jam's DJ Khaled in Miami. I walked away from Miami, just walked away from the music industry, started to try to find myself. I'm summing it up, but I stumbled into New Age. Then while I'm researching the New Age and they're talking about the Christ consciousness and different things like that, I stumbled into Zeitgeist. So that kind of took me for a loop, and I went on this mission because Zeitgeist, that movie is all about how Jesus Christ is just another form of another story that's been told over the centuries. So that took me on a loop. So that led me into the truth of Jesus, because I went and researched the history behind the crucifixion, the historians that wrote about it, and that led me to the truth. So it's kind of funny, trying to researching how he did this led me to the truth by having to research and turned me into a researcher. So that led me to YouTube channels like yours, like Rob Skiba, like Now You See TV. I just started digging deep into the truth. Rob Skiba, he talks a lot about the Book of Enoch and more. So that led me back to Christianity. Like I said, I was raised by the son of a Baptist minister, which led me to how Rob Skiba goes, to the commandments and different things like that. And then it led me to accepting the truth of the word. And then from there, it led me to seeing through the veil. And when I say seeing through the veil, it showed me how a lot of people, they don't dig deep. And it's not their fault. It's just because they don't have access to the truth. They don't have access to people that's researching, that's going to break through the fake news and even the fake news about the gospel that's going out,
Right.
from Islam to witchcraft, all of these different, I call them fake news out
Right.
there. We need the truth. We need a way to find it, and that led me to wokejournalist.com.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your testimonial. Could you tell me about what happened to you in the music industry, and especially with regards to if you don't, follow their program or protocol?
Yeah, I learned real quick that it wasn't as it seems. Growing up watching television, you see these celebrities, you see the cars, you see everything, and you want it. They make you want it. So when I got into the lifestyle, I saw that a lot of people, different celebrities, wasn't who they seemed when I met them in person. But I made a demo and I took it to DJ Khaled, and he listened to it and he told me, he's like, "You're next."
Wow.
So it wasn't him. It was his team. His team started approaching me like, "You can't bring your wife with you to concerts. You can't bring your wife with you to shows." And I'm telling them, "You guys got your girlfriends. You guys got your wives with you. Why I can't do this?" And they're just like, if you want to proceed, you just can't. And like I said, it wasn't DJ Khaled. It was his people.
Right.
And it was just too much pushback. It was always drama. It was always something else that came. So I ended up walking away because my wife, she's held me down for a long time. We've been married 10 years, and since day one, she's always had my back. So if you give me the option, it was just, my mother didn't raise me to turn my back on my wife just for something I could probably work hard or get it back myself. So that was my issue. I know a lot of rappers and a lot of YouTube videos out there expose sacrifice. So one thing we have to realize is that sometimes it's not a sacrifice of somebody's life. It can actually be a sacrifice of just something or someone you love.
Right, right. It's almost like a cult mentality, not only with the music industry, but just even business. For example, many, many years ago, I was interested in getting into this business opportunity, and I was telling them that my then ex-husband at the time was not interested in getting on board with that particular business, and they said, "Well, you need to." Basically tell him that either you're on board, honey, or we're going to have to part ways. And well, we did part ways because he was abusive verbally and mentally and sometimes physically. But that should not be the reason why you're splitting up with one spouse. Obviously, but I've been with my husband for 17 years now, and I haven't been into any type of business where they told me, "Oh, look, you have to split up with your loving Christian husband." And if they did, I would tell them to to take a hike.
Yeah.
Right, because our spouse is the person that the Lord gave us, and we're one, and that's just bad advice. It is really a cult mentality in where the idol or the god that they worship is money or fame or whatever. In both instances, because music industry is a business, and that they want you to sacrifice these different things, in one's life. It might not be a physical sacrifice, but like you said, it's a relational sacrifice, which is too much, especially since she's a supportive, loving, spiritual Christian wife, and so is my now husband. But anyway, I do remember when I heard that struck the chord in me, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've heard that before, and I'm not even a musician.
Yeah.
But what kind of spiritual warfare have you gone through, especially with regards to upholding Christian values? Uh, just in general, I guess, with the music industry and just dealing with people, with your woke journalist website.
It's been an up and down battle because, first of all, I'm 38 now, but I've been chasing the music and just building connections since I was probably 18 years old. So with that being said, with the years that I have behind me, it's been an up and down battle because I know last year I lost a mass following because I was going through so much financial troubles. And I mean, I went through the point of asking for help on, the GoFundMe's and all of this other stuff. When I just sat down to my wife and I told her, I'm like, I got all of these connections with the industry. I know different small labels that would pay me up front just to sign me and create music. And that's what we decided to do. Because first of all, I'm not used to asking for help and it got tiring, but I was catering to an audience that it's almost like, it's what they did. They shamed me. They called me all kind of names, hypocrite and all this because I made that choice. But they did. I spent almost 3 years just lights being cut off, water being cut off, just sacrificing to try to, keep this appearance. So it's been a real spiritual and mental battle trying to uphold because I signed with a small label, last year, and it's been a battle with them because they are expecting certain type of music. And I can write any type of music. I can write like Elvis if I have to, Elton John to, to Jay-Z if I have to. I'm good at writing music. So I wrote 2 secular tracks for them, but then I tried to write like, how can I put it? Almost as an EDM, like an EDM track, which is electronic dance music. I tried to write a fun, uppity, just something you could dance to, and it wouldn't be, too secular, but it was still secular, but it wouldn't. I was trying to compromise, and I basically got fined, and that led me to look more into a lot of the exposés that a lot of people do on YouTube because here I'm signed to a unknown small record label, and this has happened to me. So you imagine to the ones that are signed to major record labels.
Right.
Imagine.
I can imagine. Right. Exactly. I have a friend who will remain unnamed, but she's an African American musician, and she is similarly, but a little bit differently. She had been approached with regards to a contract where they told her basically that particular company owns her in this life as well as in the next life. And that was I'm not sure if it was a major or minor record company, but still nonetheless, I mean, it kind of goes along the lines of, they own you basically, in terms of, what you sing about or rap about or what have you. By the way, I was really impressed with, the latest song that you have on YouTube. I think it was a year ago, but still I was like, wow, it almost sounds, I was like, he almost sounds like Seal. And, so I really liked that you have a flexibility in your style. And I really like that. I really like your singing voice and what you're saying about and everything. So that was awesome. So what do they normally like for you to sing about? The major music industry.
They have what is called. Oh, I'm sorry. They have what is called an out the box rappers or out the box musician, which they will pick what kind of audience they're going to target you towards. I was working with when I was with Khaled. They were telling me about an artist that's well known that they call the out the box market and out the box rapper that they made him grow his dreads out. They picked out his tattoos, and then they picked out what kind of music and what he was going to rap about, whether it was, whether it was killing, whether it was women, sex, drugs. They picked these out every different song. So it wasn't until I got in the industry that I knew what an out the box rapper was. So when they say out the box, picture if you go to the store and you buy a Barbie doll or a Ken doll.
Yeah.
So, or Mr. Potato Head, you can even go there and you dress it up. That's what an out the box rapper is. You dress it up and you present it to, to the audience that it caters to.
Wow, that's interesting. So they really try to tailor you as a singer or any singer to the audience that would listen. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a good message. In fact, probably 99% of the time it's not a good message, but it's what people are listening to, about money, blank the police, rebellion, and promiscuity with women and what have you. Yeah, I wondered
I,
about that.
I mean, it brings the need. It helped me understand the need for the alter ego when it comes to the musician, because it allows them to become another person. And then you have from the love of money, and then you have the women, and you see how the music programs the women to become the feminists of today, because what it is, they listen to the music, they listen to the rap music, and they're pushed to love and adore the rapper, the
Yeah,
bad boy, a
right.
man that raps only about caring for himself and the riches. But you're pushed to love someone like that, and then they fall for this type, give him their all, and end up destroyed emotionally and mentally, and it causes them to do a 180, and now they don't care about the man. It's independent, this, and then they're raising their sons and they're taking that out on their sons. So they're raising their sons to be weak, and it leads to this feminine attitude where you have a whole bunch of women with this independent, I don't need a heterosexual male, I don't need a male at all attitude, and
Wow.
then they're raising their sons like that.
Wow. I didn't think about that, that it shapes women's values too, where they're choosing a man that has those attributes, that wouldn't be a good, father and husband, and the family gets broken because they chose somebody, I guess for lack of a better word, gangster,
Yeah.
and or thug or what have you, or the perception of it thereof. I mean, obviously you weren't necessarily doing those things, but they wanted you to think about those things, and it really,
I'm
like you said, shapes the minds of both sexes, men and women.
In my past, in my past, I lived that life, and
I gotcha.
in my
Oh, okay.
youth, I lived that life. So it was,
Sure.
but that's what blew me away when I got to the industry, and I just couldn't get along with anyone, because the problem is I left my parents' house because I was chasing the music industry, and I became the person that I was fake rapping about.
Okay.
So I left my parents' house and became that person. And then you get in the music industry that you've been watching for years, and you're told, "Hey, we're all fake here, dude. You need to get with the program."
Wow.
So
I
we're
had
gonna
never
do
thought about
fake
that.
things. We're gonna do fake things, and no, you can't hit us. You can't get mad at us like you'll be blackballed. So you need to get used to this, because this is not the streets. This is not. Yeah, but you're rapping about the streets.
Right, right. Wow, that's interesting. I know. I don't know if I listen to like hardcore, like gangster rap music, but I've known of them, and just the occasional song on the top 40 radio when I was a kid, growing up, and I'm like, oh, you know, and some people, some of my friends, they say, oh, you're gonna listen to this, and then I had become a Christian and I started listening to Christian rap music, and so I got very little of listening to the gangster rap music, with the swear words and about the, gang banging and F the police and, the
Yeah.
women and things like that. But I've heard sound clips, with stuff blurred out, or sometimes not blurred out, and I thought, oh gosh, so I started listening to Christian rap when I was like, I think 16, well, 16, 17. But I can imagine, what it would be like to, become what you're fake rapping about. I guess that falls in line with the spiritual principle or the biblical
It's the
principle.
lie.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
the lie that they sell us. It's the lie that they sell us, and they make you. Well, I won't say make you, but they hypnotize you into wanting this life, and they tell you the opposite. What did they teach in the Satanism? The as above, it so below.
Right.
They teach you. They make you see the opposite. The love evil. Evil is good. Good is evil, and they try to give you that mentality, and it's very hard to it's very hard to get out of it. I was just blessed because especially I've always been a programmer. I think I've been designing websites or whatever since I was like 16.
Awesome.
So I'm the type of person that likes to dig into the roots of things. So I'm the wrong person to get into something because I'm going to look up the origins.
Right. Right. I also thought of that scripture, faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. So, like, when you confess something, when you say something, think about it, rap about it, and then it gets into your spirit, and so on and so forth, and it really does manifest things, like when you sing and talk or rap about it or whatever. I also thought of that scripture that discusses, train up a child in the way he should go or she should go, train up a child in the way he should go, and when they're older, they will not depart from it, or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, but since your mom raised you with good Christian values and a foundation, you knew that leaving your wife, to pursue the music industry was not good, and then she taught you better and everything, and she taught you those biblical values of being a good husband and things like that. So when somebody comes along and tries to uproot that, you knew what to say to them and everything. So for some reason I just thought of that, about training up a child in the way they should go. So this leads into a discussion about racism. Obviously, like singing and rapping about these things and what have you, then it kind of leads into a discussion about racism, especially about the George Floyd case, and most recently about the one NASCAR driver who is, I believe, African American, or is he biracial? I'm not sure. Where he found a noose, in his garage and things like that, and it's really amplified the racial tensions in America to the point of looting and rioting and things like that. I'm totally for peaceful protesting or peaceful petitioning or what have you, but it's just gotten out of control. So feel free to talk about the systemic racism in America and what you and your family have experienced.
Okay, it all goes to, as I said, I like to research the origins of these things. So I'm trying to see the best place to start, because when we understand the systemic racism, we have to see that it's a thing of the past. And I know a lot of people get mad at me when I say that, but systemic racism, it is the belief in a system that's set in place to create and maintain racial inequality in every facet of life of Black people, from the creation of the Willie Lynch letter to the Jim Crow to the civil rights movement to redlining. But it's my belief that it once existed and it was a plague upon people of color like a virus. Right. But the vaccine of time have done away with it. And what we are left with is systemic programming. And this is my word. Yes. Systemic programming is the repetitive programming within Black culture that prevents people of color, myself, from stepping into the present, keeping us bound to the past. And how are we bound to the past? As Black History Month. How are we bound to the past? Now they have the Juneteenth. We have all of these movies that we're constantly programmed with. We have it goes back to the music from the music industry I was speaking of. The out-the-box rappers that's programmed to like F the police and all of this other stuff. The man don't want to keep us down. All of this is ways of programming, because like Morgan Freeman and Denzel Washington, all the way up Lil Wayne and a whole bunch of other Black celebrities, they came out and they talked about it. They said, so what's my excuse? I made it. So where is systemic racism when it comes to me? The problem is that we're reminded we can't move forward because we're constantly reminded of what they did to us.
Right.
And when hard times come, it's, oh, this is that, this is this, redlining in my community. No, I mean, from a Black president to, all the different celebrities we have, there's ways to get out of this. Right. Angela Stanton, she's running for Congress in Georgia, and she's a Black Republican. She was talking about it. She said she got out of prison with a $25 check. They released her from prison. She had a baby in prison that was handcuffed to a chair. They released her from prison with a $25 check and gave her back custody of 4 kids and said, okay, live your life. Wow. She said that I had to figure things out. She went on, got little small jobs, wrote a book, became a top-selling author, and then she moved up, and now she's running for Congress. She met President Trump, and he gave her a full pardon of her past. The only thing holding us back is us and the negative connotations of that we're reminded of the past.
Right. Right. I like your terminology of systemic programming, that these different media things, like the movies and what have you, they keep reminding black people of the past and about, the white man, holding down the black man, and quite literally and metaphorically speaking, in the Floyd case. And that falls in line with some of the things that I've researched about, that I know that you probably researched about too. Like, for example, billionaire, leftist, communistic George Soros, who really wants to amplify racial tensions and that has funded, the Black Lives Matter movement. I have some friends that are totally pro BLM, and they're Caucasian. And even though it has a veneer of virtuosity and goodness, what do you think about it? Like, what do you really know about it on the inside? So on the outside, it seems to be a beneficial organization, but on the inside, what have you discovered?
When we look at the Black Lives Matter, you see that it's ran by, 3 lesbian women, which they've made it clear that they're pushing for feministic power and power for the LGBTQ movements, and they never mention the heterosexual male. They never mention powering the black family. Even their Black Lives Matter, they never mention powering the black family to have a male as head of the household. It's right there on their website. I'm quoting from their site. It said, "We are guided by the fact that all Black Lives Matter, regardless of actual or preserved sexual identity, gender identity, and gender expression." What does that have to do with what's going on in today's climate? And then it also mentions self-reflexive, and do the work to dismantle cisgender privilege and uplift Black trans folk. Once again, their own agenda. And then the next thing they say, and I'm quoting word from word, you can go look it up on the Black Lives Matter site, said, "We're to build a space to affirm Black women is free from sexism, misogyny, and environments that are man-centered. We are a queer affirming network." Now, this is right there on this site.
Wow.
So when we're constantly asked that, what about the Black family? What about Black on Black crime? What about abortions?
Right.
It's clear that this would never be addressed within Black Lives Matter, because you have these 3 feminists that are for all of them. I'm not saying they're for Black on Black crime, but they would never address it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They would never address it. And this is what's playing in our community. So when we look at the news, when we look at what's going on, and you spoke of George Soros, he's not the only one. Our media is are creating, are making us look like to be victims, and they're riling the people up, because throughout that whole George Floyd video, a lot of people don't know that there was 3 cops on George Floyd.
Right.
And a lot of people was like, "Oh, it's a hoax, because why didn't this guy just get up? You got this cop with his knee on his neck." No, it was 3 cops, and one of them was Black.
Right.
But the media pushed this narrative that, this is a racist act. This one cop held his knee on there for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, I believe. So they pushed this narrative, and not once did they tell the Black community, like, hey, there was a Black guy on this. Because the problem is, and I was talking to a friend about this, I said the reason why this happened right again, and you're right back protesting about Rashard, is because the media is making you believe that all of this is about racism, when it's not. Because this is about police reformation that's needed. These cops are improperly trained. The problem is that people are marching for Black Lives Matter, and what they should be marching for is police reformation. And that's why it keeps happening. That's why right after George Floyd happened, Rayshard happened, and people marching, "Oh, this is another Black man killed." And the problem is it has nothing to do with racism. So nothing is going to change because you're marching for the wrong thing. And then my friend was like, "Well, they both need to be addressed." I said, "So now that I've told you that one of the cops on George Floyd was Black, you now understand how this isn't about racism. Yes, I get that, but they both need to be addressed. I said, so let's do an example. I said, so I'm dating a woman from the water company, and she gets mad at me because I breaks up with her and she cuts off my water. And she, she's not supposed to. She works for the water company. She's supposed to uphold the values of the water company. So I go and I start protesting the power company. I said, well, that makes sense. He's like, no, that wouldn't make sense. I said, but you're saying what the woman did with the water company, I need to protest her, right? And I need to protest the water company. Yes. But you're also telling me I need to protest the power company. So how does your example make sense? Like, if the problem is with police brutality and you're marching for racism, the problem is what we got going on Facebook and what you're seeing. You're seeing a lot of divisive conversations because the problem is the black community is being lied to by the media, and they haven't looked into this stuff. So when someone white posts that, George Floyd was this, or this happened to George Floyd, or this isn't racism, all lives matter, black folks don't understand because they're being shown, just one white cop shooting a black man.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I totally agree that they're only being shown one side of it, that they just see a white police officer on the neck of George Floyd, but they don't see behind him is a black police officer also in his back and holding him down as well. So that's a really good analogy, that, if you're wronged by somebody, for example, like you're dating a woman from the water or electric company and they shut off your utilities, and so instead of addressing the problem with her, you're addressing the problem with the whole entire system or the whole entire company that she works for.
It's two different systems because, like I said, she works for the water company. I'm going to protest the water company and tell them stop hiring and giving them that much power to be able to do this thing. She works for you guys. She cut off my water.
Right.
This is the problem. But I'm not going to go and protest the power company because here in Florida, we have a power company and we have a water company. It's two different. I know a lot of people, some of them are the same company, but here in Florida, like, it's two different companies.
I'm in Florida too. Mid-Florida.
Yeah.
It's separate for us too.
Yeah. So the problem is that everybody want to protest the power company instead of focusing on the water company and the bad employee that they have.
Right.
And if you focus on reformation of the police force, you focus on that, it's the Rayshard issue. It might have not taken too far. Like Rayshard Brooks, a lot of people might not have looked into that. He was the guy that he fell asleep. He was drunk, fell asleep in the Wendy's drive-through. Police was called. They checked him, ran the sobriety, whatever, and they was like, hey, you're under arrest. And he chose to resist arrest. And then he chose to turn a taser back. So I ask people that's listening right now, what part of that is racism right now? So up to everything I've said, nothing is racism. Okay, now let's continue on. So he turned the taser on the cops, wrestled the cops, tried to tase one of the cops, and then tried to run and turn around and tried to tase again. And they shot him. Okay. None of that has to do with racism. So this is why the cop was fired. The cop was fired because after he shot him, he stood on him and he kicked him. They found video footage of him kicking him. And this is why the cop was fired. And he waited 2 minutes to call for, emergency assistance. So that's why he was fired. But when it happened, guess what the news reported? Another black man being killed by police.
Right.
This is the problem.
The problem is police brutality, and the media is going to, like you said, highlight the white police officer and not the situation surrounding it, right? Absolutely, I agree. Have you heard some of the conspiracy theories that it was a false flag and that the same situation occurred in France like a few days later? And the same thing, a white police officer on a black man's neck, and there was some other YouTube video where it's like 25 reasons why this might be a false flag or something like that. Do you think that it's 100% real with the narrative that they're stating? Or do you think that there could be an element of false flag in it? And by the way, for the untrained listener, false flag means that an entity or like, for example, a global government entity has set up a situation to make it look like something that the media is pushing to society, but the situation surrounding that situation is, or the situation surrounding what you're watching is different. I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly. Have you heard that it might be? I mean, I believe that he died. I believe he got killed. But do you think that it could have been a setup?
The way first of all, when people was asking me questions when it first happened, this is what led me to complete, because I had already started on the Woke Journalist website, I think almost like 2 years ago. But this would encourage me to change the entire format into a fact checking website. Because the problem is that the more memes they sent me, the more conspiracy theories they sent me, I started looking into them. And once you look deeper into it, you notice that no, it's just people lack of research. Like they show the EMT. They're like, why is the EMT wearing badges? But when you go back 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you see they always had a uniform that looked like badges. You know, that like they had looked like cop badges. And they always and they also wore vests, bulletproof vests and different things like that. So, you know, that was debunked. And then they was asking me about, the coffin, and then how did someone fit in the little coffin. And then you see that many funeral homes have practices of either breaking the legs back or sometimes even cut them off. You can look that up on Google. So it depends on whether the family wanted. So, I mean, each one of these could be debunked one by one that they were giving me. And I provide sources. I provide sources and I provide links. So it's not just my opinion. I was providing sources, contacting George Ford family. And the problem is this is why I say that we have to protest police brutality and the way they're trained, because that is why it happened again in France. Because if you would have looked, I think it was 2016 and another 2019, they had a couple white kids that killed the same way, begging for his life, saying he can't breathe, and one had two white officers, 2 knees on his neck.
Oh wow!
So if people just do a little bit of research and start digging deep, a lot of the conspiracy theories that they have would go away.
I see. Okay. Well, that's really good that you have a fact-checking website. I know that Snopes.com, which is, I believe, I heard that it was a CIA-operated website. It's good that you have something like that, except it's actually telling, the truth about the matter. Because I think with Snopes.com, I mean, I would say 90% of it is fact. But then that 10% that are lies that are mixed in it is something that people take hook, line, and sinker. For example, I guess some people were, wondering about the, the mark of the beast, for example. Like if you try to look up that information, then it'll debunk it and say that it's really not the mark of the beast or whatever. I forget what specific example, but there's I would say 90% truth and 10% lies, or stuff that's not from a biblical perspective. When it comes to stuff like that, that a lot of the conspiracy theories, I don't take hook, line, and sinker, but I try to kind of investigate a little bit into it and see if it makes sense or whatever. So that's good that you have a fact-checking website on your wokejournalist.com website. And did you find out about what happened to that NASCAR driver? Was that in fact true? Or I guess some of the FBI agents had said that he wasn't a victim of a hate crime, but not 100% sure.
Yeah, I usually wait, even with Jussie Smollett, with what happened with Jussie Smollett, I usually wait 3 to 4 weeks before I even speak on those things because you want to wait for more of the evidence to come out. So even with George Floyd, I was telling people you have to wait for more of the evidence to come out, and then you notice that some of the evidence showed that he worked with the cop before, and that they worked at a dirty nightclub, and that was known for laundering money, and so now you can start painting the picture because you see first George Floyd and the person that was in the car with him was pulled over by two different cops, which included the black cop. So you see that he was pulled over and somebody called Derek Chauvin onto the scene. So you see George Floyd didn't really start getting belligerent or didn't start getting hostile until Derek Chauvin came to the scene, and they wanted to turn him over into Derek Chauvin's custody. I mean, it's right there in the video, and then you see he's like kicking, like, I'm not getting in that truck. So a lot of people was like, look, there he was, resisting arrest, but you don't know the whole story. You know, all you saw was a man resisting arrest. Was like, see, you know what I mean? They had to hold him down. They had to do this. They had to do that. And now, you know, a couple weeks later, they show you where they had a history. So now that makes you wonder. That's why I built this site. And it's not just me. I've been hiring at the bottom of the Woke Journalist website, if you scroll down, you actually see where it says our team. And I'll be listing the fact checkers. Like you mentioned, Mark of the Beast. So I study the Bible, and I've only been studying it for, around about 6 years, 7 years in depth, and Apocrypha texts and all of these things. But I wouldn't feel qualified to answer for the Mark of the Beast. So I reach out to people and I bring them aboard to answer these questions, and I make them fact checkers. So if I were to get something like, for instance, the Book of Enoch, I would contact Rob Skiba and I would ask him to create an account and answer that question. And then I will mark it as the best answer. And then I will allow other people to, if I feel like it's not the best answer, I might allow someone like Zen Garcia or someone else to come along and put an answer under that so that we can get full research. My problem with Snopes is that they have answers like mostly false or mostly true. Come on, there's no such thing.
Right.
You know, you could in high school you didn't take a test and it's like, oh, false, true, and mostly false and mostly true.
Right.
It's no such thing. So my thing is, if it's true, and then you can give the narrative or you can give the perspective of why it's true for this instinct, and now you can go into the whole story. Like I think Snopes had a picture of Joe Biden, and he was standing with a KKK member, and the question was like, is Joe Biden in this picture with a KKK member? And it was like, mostly true. It's like, no, he's in the picture. No, Joe Biden. Yes, true. It should have said true. He's in the picture with this ex-KKK member. But later on, this member recanted his, time as grandmaster or whatever in the KKK. That's how it should read. But it's no such thing as mostly true. That lets you know that Snopes is catering to these people. Right.
That's interesting. How they say something is mostly true or mostly false or whatever. Maybe I guess they're probably trying to say that they don't know 100% for sure. But it's a good probability that it is true or whatever, or a good probability that it's false. But in the end, it's either going to be true or false, but they can't know for sure. And I think that's very smart and very that you have a lot of integrity to get information from these other experts to build, more facts in your website, with regards to these different topics. But that's good that you've been studying the Bible for 6 or 7 years, and I probably would do the same thing too. Like if I had a website, or in my case, a podcast. I interview experts like yourself and other people in the past, and in the future, hopefully, that have obviously have more expertise and skills and experience, that would qualify them to talk about such subjects. So that's good that you do that. That's very good. Oh, have you heard? Did you ever watch that video of the Umbrella Man? That's something that's going viral. It was at the on AutoZone, and I forget where it was, but somebody had caught it on their cell phone, where this man was totally dressed in black, and he from head to toe, and he had an umbrella, whatever, and he just, I guess, walked up to an AutoZone and he started bashing in the windows and spray painted, free stuff for, get your stuff for free or whatever, but
Yeah.
he didn't write stuff. And there was this young black boy that kept following him and was trying to interrogate him, like, what's going on, man? What's going on? That was an interesting video that kind of showed me that there's a possibility that some are paid to amplify racial tensions by, doing the looting and the vandalism and things like that. And then plus there were bricks found in various places, and then nobody could figure out who put the bricks there. And one of the things that I find crazy is, these celebrities that I once looked up to, because they're an actress or somebody in the limelight, like Chrissy Teigen, for example. She had funded, bringing these various rioters out of prison. And I'm thinking, okay, out of all the things that you could give to, why are you, bringing these people out of prison who are paid rioters and looters and protesters and what have you? And so on one hand, she's, I joke and say she's a sister from another mister because she's, half Thai, but that doesn't mean that I am on board with, everything that she's doing, obviously. I just I know that I perceive that there are paid protesters, because I watched this video of this man that was talking about how he was paid to protest by the George Soros organization, and from just reading what he said and how he said it, his intonation, it doesn't sound like he's lying, So yeah, one of the things that I find so kind of sad is, these people that, a lot of the civilians look up to, they're funding things and supporting things, whether it's abortion or, looting and rioting, that's of a violent nature, or whatever it is out there, and yet, we, the sheeple, are, looking up to these people, just because, they're beautiful, healthy, wealthy, and things like that. What do you think of that?
I mean, it goes back to the systemic programming, right? Because you got to remember, these are celebrities. They spend most of their time, doing celebrity things, right, and they don't have time to do the research that you and I are doing. Right. So when they're turned on the news, they're told the same thing continuously. Trump is racist. Black Lives Matter. Trump is racist. Black Lives Matter. Another cop is killing a black man. Right. So in their minds, that's why I said we as truthers, we have to understand where the other side are coming from with the things they do, because they're still asleep in a way. I don't mean it as an insult, but it's just fact.
It's true, yeah.
They're still asleep. So they're following the news. The media is showing them a black man being killed by a cop. And then it's 15-second clips. You see a black man turning around and pow, pow, he's shot in the back. Or you see 15-second clip, the cop sitting there with his hand on his pocket and knee on the black man's neck. So you see these people as they're running by emotions. Right. They're running by emotions, and they look at the news and they're like, man, these people are getting protested because they're fighting for their lives. These are black boys and they're mad. So that's why they're burning down the buildings, because they're mad, and another black man is killed. So when you go from that perspective and you see it from their eyes, it takes people like what I'm doing. It takes people like what Candace is doing. Although I didn't agree 100% with her rant about George Floyd, but it takes people what Candace Owens is doing, and take what other folks are doing to try to talk to us that have the same complexion and say, look, you're being fooled, you're being tricked. And until they get that message, they're going to continue bailing out the people that's burning down the cities they live in.
Right. Right. That is a good perspective because they're still asleep, metaphorically speaking, and all they don't know what they don't know, and all they know is what the media is telling them, and what their handlers are telling them, and their managers are telling them. This is what you've got to do to get in good with the public, which is virtue signaling. Like all these companies that have come out on the website. We support Black Lives Matter. And in fact, I was a part of an organization. Well, it's an organization. I was part of a membership-based organization that helps writers, and because the people on the Facebook group did not mention specifically, what happened to George Floyd, that there was a couple of black ladies, that blasted the management, saying, why is it sunshine and roses here when you need to address, what's happening, out in culture, and what had happened to George Floyd, and this, that, and the other. And the owner didn't address it, quite yet, because, they were just trying to mentally digest what was happening in the world, before they came out with a statement, before they emailed people and said that they, stand for, the rights of everybody, the rights of African Americans in America. Oh, I'm sorry, that was redundant, but, that they stand for civil rights, and they stand for Black people and everything. But, it's coming to the point where, if you don't mention that you support, Black Lives Matter, that you'll be vilified. People have been, anchor people, journalists have been fired because they say all lives matter, and, I believe Black Lives Matter. I believe all lives matter. But at the same time, I empathize, and have compassion, for those people who feel like, well, if you say all lives matter, I feel like my life didn't matter when, this white police officer, was beating the heck out of me the other day, or whatever, or I was, interrogated, harshly and verbally abused, by, such and such who was Caucasian, So on one hand, I see that there seems to be a reverse racism where if you say all lives matter, then you'll be part of the cancel culture. You'll be canceled, you'll be fired. But then on the other hand, I see where the people that, have been wronged, say, look, if you say all lives matter, then you're sort of dismissing, the Black lives who don't feel significant. They don't feel important or empowered or whatever. So what do you think of that?
As I say, it goes back to it all just goes back to the same thing. If they don't understand how the hashtag has been hijacked, if they don't understand how Black Lives Matter, the organization has hijacked the hashtag, and if they don't understand what is actually going on or what they're seeing and how the media is playing them, they're gonna, this tension is gonna go. And unless more people just start coming. And the problem is too, we in the Black communities, we need leaders. We need leaders that's going to be able to stand up, and able to educate the people to know what's going on. Because as you see, the higher up, the people that, Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, and a couple other people that do their research, if you look on their interviews, they talk about it. They're like, hey, I don't support the Black Lives Matter.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? They talk about it.
I didn't know that. I'll have to look up their what they have to say about that. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, many of them, they don't talk because it's not, I think that I forgot the other rapper, it's Lord Jamar or whatever like that.
Yes,
they know it. They just stay quiet because the problem is that they know what is going on. They can see it, but it becomes taboo because in the industry right now, you have what is called cancel culture.
Yes.
Which is if especially in the Black community, if a Black celebrity like the Black rapper Trina, she's a hip hop rapper and she's African American, but she was talking about it. She was during the middle of a live interview, and they asked her about the buildings, about the city, the people burning down their own building, and she said these people are acting like a bunch of animals, and here they accuse her of being racist.
Wow.
She's Black, and then they cancel her from all her shows, BT and all the rest of them.
Goodness.
Wow. That's what's going on. If you speak up, you got to be prepared to lose. That's why on my woke journalist website, I refuse to put Google Ads on there. I'm actually building my own version of AdSense, like similar to Google AdSense. I'm
Wow.
going to build my own version and put it on there because we're not going to be led to what we can post or what we can't post or what we could say or what we can't say. The truth is the truth. The news is the news.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I really find that sad about cancel culture. And, we're supposed to have free speech here in America, First Amendment, but really we don't. And it's becoming worse as time goes on, where you can't speak your mind and not suffer a backlash. And, I mean, I understand if somebody says, that they're going to, blow up people or kill people or whatever, I understand, that the person should be apprehended and whatever, but to lose one's job just because you happen to like a tweet, to lose one's job because you happen to say all lives matter is ridiculous. But like I said, at the same time, I have, compassion on those, who have suffered, prejudice and discrimination and outright violence. Well, being a minority, I'm Asian, Thai. I'm sure we've been Facebook friends for a while because I sent you a friend request from many years ago because I was impressed with your conversation with Justin Paul or Now You See TV, I forget. But from my perspective, some people, might say, oh, that's fake news or whatever. It's like, how can it be fake news if it's my own personal experience? Like for example, when the COVID-19 first broke into, the public eye, with the media and everything, obviously the COVID-19 has been around for a little while. But I had researched a little bit about some Asian folks, who had suffered vandalism and violence and verbal or physical violence to them or their properties or both, because they were seen as a scapegoat or even the culprit of such of the virus. And I felt how sad it was. And I posted it on Facebook, and one of my friends said that was fake news. I said, well, I don't think it's fake news because there's some of my friends, who have, had not necessarily, a physical violence occur to them, but some of my friends who they have maybe a family member, who is Asian or part Asian or whatever, and they had some things that were said against them, and all the Chinese restaurants, all the Asian restaurants had to close down, because people were vandalizing the restaurant or not going to the restaurant anymore, anyway. Yeah. So that was the recent events, but like growing up, I was born in Southern California, which was very diverse, and my parents were immigrants from Thailand. And so they chose a little house next to, believe it or not, Compton, Huntington Park. And they didn't realize that, it was sort of, in a kind of a crime-riddled area, even in the early 70s. But anyway, so when I was like 8 years old, we moved to Cameron Park, which is kind of mainly Caucasian, like 99% Caucasian, kind of semi-affluent, like upper middle class area in Cameron Park by Sacramento. And I had experienced, major racism as a kid, and I was a little traumatized by that growing up, but, we got to know each other. More minorities came in, black folks, Hispanic folks, and whatever. So instead of 99% white and 1% other, it was like now it might be like 80 to 85% white and the rest other over there. I'm not exactly sure, what the demographics are over there. But I definitely experienced racism, people calling me zipperhead, and
Wow. Wow.
stretching their eyes out and saying, "Oh, she Chinese. Oh, I Chinese. I play joke. I go give me your coke." Just ridiculous things like that.
Wow.
But even though it was from a mocking standpoint, and kids are just mean to each other anyway, it doesn't matter if you're a different race or if you have a different type of, clothing or hair or, maybe on the wrong side of town or something like that, you'll get made fun of. It doesn't matter, what race, kids are, but still, I grew up with that, but then every year that went by, they realized I was just like them on the inside. We all grew up together, made best friends and things like that, to this day, that I still connect with, from that little town. But I definitely understand, but I know that you were telling me some, horrible things that happened in your family, graphic violence. I think that from your, interview with, Rob Skiba, that I think you said you had an uncle or a grandfather who was burnt alive in their wheelchair. I just that's horrifying. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
so heartbreaking.
My great grandfather, he was burnt alive in his wheelchair. My grandfather, they put his knuckles on the police car and broke his knuckles so that he couldn't continue on boxing. So, I mean, those are the stories, that I heard growing up. And like I said, this is all about, and I wouldn't call this systemic programming, because this is just, actual things that didn't happen.
Right.
It's not like my dad set me down every single day and was like, hey, you see that white cop? That's why your grandfather, no, he didn't do that. This story I probably heard twice growing up. So, but those are things that's embedded in me, to remember. But my problem is that when we continue on, from the rap music, because as I mentioned, the out the box rapper, these are people that are told to make songs, against the police department. We're told to make songs, drug dealing and all this other stuff. So this is, the programming that is being programmed into their listeners.
Right.
So you grow up like me, when you see a cop, your stomach drops all the way down to your foot.
Oh,
because you're so nervous, and you're not even doing anything wrong.
Right.
Because I see that all the time on Facebook. People post, well, if you're not doing nothing wrong, yeah, that's okay if you grew up, in whatever community you grew up in. But if you grow up amongst a community that you're constantly being told, the cop's going to pick on you just because you're because your skin complexion, you're going to develop some nervous tick. You're going to develop that.
Of course.
That's why when you see, a black guy pull over, it's even in the old cartoons. I was watching this old cartoon, Baby Kids from the 90s. And he got pulled over. He got out the car. He was headed to an amusement park. He got pulled over by the cop. He get out. He automatically just start putting his hands in the air, and he walks and spreads and straddles right on the car. Like, well, I don't got nothing on me, officer. It was a comedy cartoon. But if you look back at these are the things that we've been programmed with.
Right. It's so sad, for sure. And that is good that you had separated that, these are the things that have occurred in your family versus the systemic programming. Like, okay, this is happening, now, and, you need to, hate white people and things like that. Obviously you don't have that. And it's good that you have separated, that. And I've also separated, all, white folk from the things that had occurred to me, or even to my own father. For some reason, I know that what I had said was pretty minor compared, to what a lot of people have gone through, and my dad, he was kind of, roughhoused and sort of manhandled by some people at the airport, the customs officials, back in the early 80s, because he had brought over some jewelry from Thailand, and also some rolls of Thai money, and they thought he was like some sort of gangster, some Asian gangster.
Wow.
And they really, I mean, they brought him into a room in the back and pushed him in his chair and everything except, tying his hands behind his back. There was a light on him. And when I was a little kid, like 8 years old, I said, I have to use the bathroom. And they're like, you're not going anywhere, and pushed me back into my chair and things like that, and, I mean, obviously we have come, far from that, but at the same time we haven't, because of, like you said, the systemic programming. I do like that you coined that. I hope that gets incorporated into, some sort of dictionary or what have you. But that's really good that you have, your ministry and your website and what have you, So I hope that more Black folk and just more people of whatever culture will see, what it is, what's happening for what it really is. What would you like to say to folks, from other ethnicities, to help them understand, what the Black folks have been going through, in the past and present? What would you like to say to people of other ethnicities? And I say ethnicities because when I say the term race, then it makes it sound like, we're not of the human race. So I like to say other ethnicities. So what would you like to say, in summary to people of other ethnicities, that are not from the Black community, to help them understand, self included, what you're, going through and stuff, and what the Black community is going through?
Well, I just ask that everyone looks at it from the outside, the pictures that are painted, because we're not, we're not victims, but we are victims of the media. We are victims of this programming. So just like Neo had to have his Morpheus, I'm just asking that we all just try to become a Morpheus of a type, and just be, how can I say it? Be patient when you talk to the other side. Be patient, just like I have to be patient even when I'm talking, to my own side, and I hate to say side because it makes us look like we're on different sides, but the media has placed us on different sides, because anytime something happens, that's the first thing they say: a Black man was shot by a white officer, and that automatically is a trigger. They know what they're doing. And we have to realize they know what they're doing. The people burning down their cities, they're doing it out of anger. And some are just doing it to do it. Some are just doing it because, they want to burn. They want things to burn. But a lot of people are doing it because they're doing it out of anger. Like I was talking to my friend, and he's like, I am emotional. I was giving an example about the power in the water company. I'm like, bro, you can't be emotional when it comes to this. You have to see it. And I've given you every case that you've shown me with a white cop killed a Black man, the last 3. I said, I've showed you. The only one that was had race involved was the one with the pickup truck. What I think his name Arbery. That was the only one, and that came out after the fact, because a lot of people was like, oh, he was going through construction site, he was stealing. How would you feel? And I kept telling people, wait. And now you see from the court transcripts, you see that they followed behind this guy and they were shouting out racial slurs. They even hit him with a truck at one time. That's not caught on video. Hit him with the truck at one time. So he was not going to go. He was going to try to wrestle away the gun because he felt like his life was in danger. And they even in the transcripts, this I haven't looked into, but it is in the articles. They say that he had that he was getting a drink of water. He was on those construction sites. He was running through them, and he was I think he used a water hose or something like that. So it might be evidence that he was trying to cool down. Okay. So I don't know, you know what I mean? But I do know that it was racial involved, because they said the guy that took the video, what they didn't release to the public, it showed that they were shouting racial slurs. Wow. So that's the only one that I could say had some type of, races involved, racial tension involved. But the rest of them, a lot of them have everything to do with police brutality. So the problem is, when both sides are sitting down talking, they have to be able to understand where the other side is coming from, and they have to take the approach from there. And the media is shaping the other side's mind. Right.
So, folks, we're not saying that white police brutality, it doesn't occur. We're saying that
it's rare.
It's rare statistically, right? Yeah, we're saying that what needs to be reformed is the police force as a whole, because they're in a position of authority. They need to not abuse that power, as power can corrupt absolutely. And that it's not against all white folk, because that's just one side of the story most of the time, especially in the media. For some reason, I thought of this. I know that there's a quote among the higher up Freemasons by Albert Pike, I believe, who said that order comes out of chaos, and something about how they they want to inflame racial tensions, to bring order out of that chaos, and something about there's just like different types of MOs, different types of agendas that the elite Freemasons have, to bring down, society, to bring division, in other words. So it's kind of like that one particular mental illness where a woman might abuse, their child to garner sympathy, and then, come as the heroine, and rescue, her child. So in other words, so they cause a situation to occur to look like the hero. And I think that's paving the way for the Antichrist to step in. But I know that's way further down the rabbit hole. But I know that that's part of the MO behind the elite Freemasons. I know that like people that are not, elite, globalist elite, that are, the regular, Freemasons, out in these lodges will say, we haven't heard of that, or, we haven't heard any, plan for global domination or whatever. But, even though I disagree, that, like, for example, like they'll bring in people to get into their organizations and lodges and what have you, saying, okay, if you believe in God, whether you're a Christian or Buddhist or Muslim or whatever, as long as you believe in a higher power, we'll accept you. But then when you get into like the higher, like 33rd and beyond, degree Mason, that's when, they come out with, who the real, power is, the real higher power is, they ultimately believe in Lucifer as God, out of all these religions, so anyway, all that to say is that the powers that be, or the powers that should be, that are globalist elite, they want to bring division between the ethnicities, the races, so that they can look like hero, by ushering in, martial law, or, ushering in, the Antichrist eventually, who will, bring, a false peace, but that's way down the rabbit hole. I don't know why I brought that up, but. So what would be your last words upon how we should? Oh, actually, before we get to that, Vall, for some reason I thought of a real story that Justin Vall had stated in one of his home fellowships with his brother Westfall. He stated that he had good friends from all backgrounds. He had good friends who were black, Hispanic, whatever, growing up in Georgia, I believe. And he had a very good friend where like race wasn't even an issue. And so this good friend was not a victim of racism, whether mocking or jeering or, prejudice or discrimination in any way, shape, or form. But when he got into college, apparently, the information that was taught in the educational system had influenced him to become a reverse racist, basically, and really state, just really bought into the narrative and really incorporated the victim mentality and became really hardened towards white folk, to the point where Justin had to unplug and unfollow this person because it was all about that. And Justin knew that his one of his best friends was not a victim of racism, but once he got out in the world, the other black folk had said, oh, you need to be mad at the white you need to be mad at the white folk, So I don't know. I just thought of that story, before we got into the wrap up here. So anyway, Val, what would you say as your last words to, not last words ever, but your last words for this conversation? What do you think are some practical ways we can solve racism? I know that you touched on it a bit before, but anything new that you could think of that would solve the problem of racism in America and worldwide?
Just to stop. It's the same thing Morgan Freeman said. Stop talking about it. Just stop bringing it up. Stop with the Black History Month. My history isn't relegated towards just 1 month. It's American history. So we have to stop talking about it. We have to, first, but actually first we have to be able to talk about how, the programming exists, and then we have to break it. We have to take the red pill and break it.
Right.
Ways to do that is see where both sides coming from. As you mentioned, like you said we're not saying that there's no racist cops. No, we're not saying that. What I'm asking people to do is go back and look at each one of the cases that has happened. Look at it for yourself, and see, and look at it from start to finish, how it happened, and see whether it was, racism at all. I think some of them has to do with prejudice,
Right.
stereotyping, but as far as just flat out racism that the people had to go through in the 1930s or 60s, that's very rare today.
Right.
So with that being said, we got to just we got to move forward, and in order to move forward, we have to just stop bringing it up, stop having we probably have to rechange, and I'm guilty of this. I'm going through a spiritual battle because I'm still signed to this small label. So the music we listen to, the things we watch on television, the conversations we have with our kids, how we look at one another when we out in the public, how we look at other race, the jokes that are made, and just different things that we do. That's the way we're going to get past this.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm sorry, you had talked about your woke journalism website, and I know that we talked about it before. So your website is woke, WOKEJOURNALIST.com. Is that right, Val?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so, what is your YouTube again, Val?
The YouTube is the Woke Journalist YouTube. I haven't really been updating it because right now I've been programming. We're going to launch a Roku channel as well. But what I'm doing, I'm reaching out to all the big YouTubers. Right now we have ODD TV that just joined, the team as a fact checker as well. So I'm reaching out to how many of the big names that I can get in contact of to try to get them to just be a part of it, because this thing is not, how can I put it? It's a platform. It has nothing to do with me. That's why I took my, the other one had my face as a logo for Woke Journalists. I changed it. I used the white rabbit because we're going down the rabbit hole with everything that we research. And I made it into a platform. Everybody gets their own brand. Like when you sign up, you'll see it. It's your own brand. People can ask you questions. They can go to you get a profile just like you get on Facebook. They can ask you questions and you can answer them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So can they also find you on Facebook? You're under VALLOWENS. Is that right, Val?
Yeah, you can find me under Vall Owens, or you can go type in Woke Journalist. We have the Woke Journalist Facebook page, and we have the group now. The group is growing pretty fast.
Yes.
I was surprised at that. But it's growing pretty fast, and it gathers together, because this is why I say it's a conversation we have to have on both sides. Because I had this black couple that, they saw me as, they did what they always do. They saw me as a black owner. And that's another thing we didn't talk on, but I have a big problem with that. Because the thing is, it's like, you have all these, blackpowerbusiness.com and you have blackplanet.com. But what would you do if someone created whiteplanet.com? You would be protesting in the streets. You would burn Florida down if you had whiteplanet.com, or, you had White Better Business, the White Better Business Bureau. And it's like, what? So in order for us to move forward, we got to get rid of these things, because this is all about, yes, back when systemic racism was involved and it was redlining and you couldn't find a house, they wasn't giving people houses or whatever. Yes, you needed the Black Business Bureau or whatever that was created to help black families. But now we live in a time where grants are available, all these loans are available, and different things are available. So this is what I'm saying. We have to break the programming of times where there's systematic racism, and we have to be able to take advantage of these things and stop. Because What do you think when a non-racist white person look and then they see the Black Better Business Bureau call us all Black families today. We're helping now. They can't call that number.
Right.
So you're promoting equality by promoting segregation.
Wow. I never thought about that this way, the way that you're explaining it. Right. That's totally true. That if you take a truth and you flip it around conversely, so for example, like you said, in Black History Month or, Black business or whatever, but the white folk can't do that, because of the systemic programming. I know that there's some people, that they might celebrate their, European heritage by whatever, like for example, St. Patrick's Day, but really it's supposed to be, Irish, but, it is and it isn't, it's mainly people, are interested in, green food and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting that you did. I did see that the woke journalist Facebook group is very interesting, and that's how I got inspired to interview you, is because I saw that interview that Rob had done with you, and I was impressed, and I thought, I would love to interview you, and I'm so glad that the good Lord opened the door, that you carved out some time for me to interview you and getting your thoughts about this, because it is a rare occurrence to find somebody who is woke in terms of like the true meaning of woke. Because when I heard of the term woke, that was tied with the Christian truther stuff. But then when you said that you're a woke journalist, I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll look into this. And if with a fresh of breath air, a fresh air, it was not what the mainstream media considers as quote woke, which is like pro BLM and down with the white man and all this stuff. That you have a website and everything you stand for is about racial equality and not dividing the races. I was just like really surprised when I saw, somebody that, pulled out of, shocked and surprised that somebody pulled out of supporting you, because they thought that, like I know that you could tell the story better. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, there are two, there, like I said, it's a Black business. And they felt that I was starting a Black owned company or whatever. I don't know what they expected, but it said facts matter. That's my logo. You don't even see woke journalists on the top of the site. The main part of the site is the hashtag facts, hashtag matter. So,
Right.
But anyway, they saw my formation about, reformation in the police department, about racism and different things. And next thing I know, they donated $4,000, and that's what allowed me to be able to fund the developers that helped me out of creating this, because I'm a programmer too. But my one developer that's under our team section, he has like 3 master degrees in programming and stuff. So yeah, he's over there in Pakistan. So he cost a pretty penny, but I guess they didn't agree with what I was promoting or what, the facts that I was promoting. So they asked for a refund. So I gave them their $4,000 back, which is really, it put a hindrance in because, it stopped. We actually have an office location in Ormond Beach. So, this isn't something it's not a blog. That's what so I was in the form of, before I had to return their money, trying to get the LLC, to get licensed as a real publication, and to also do a magazine subscription.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, because I learned how to do all of that in the industry, so it's possible. But now it's all on hold because, as I say, we got the Roku channel that's on hold. We have the Fire app that's on hold, and the mobile app that has been on hold. So they really put a wrench in it, but it's not going to stop it. It's not going to stop it.
Yes, for sure. And if you want to support what Vall is doing, and feel free to donate on the website, if you feel led to, folks. And I thought that was crazy that they pulled out and they like you said, had some misconception about what you were doing or whatever, and they also said something really racist about white folk in general, calling them crackers, like, oh,
Yeah.
you support the crackers or whatever. Oh
Yeah, they
my
call
gosh,
me a traitor and all of this other stuff, but
that's
I mean,
horrible.
go and debunk what I say. Go and debunk what I said. If they would have listed facts, they was like, "Oh, you said this. Well, here's the source. You were wrong about this." Then I'd be like, "Wow, I'm wrong." But
Right,
you're gonna have to hit me with facts, people, because I'm not gonna be straight based on your opinion or your emotions, because none of that matters. The only way that we're gonna be able to move forward is if we just move forward on the truth. So that's
right,
why I say you're not going to hold me to money. And that's how this, wokejournalist.com is funded by the people. So this whole site is funded by people just going there, just like they do at Wikipedia. If Wikipedia can do it, then so can we. So it's
sure,
funded by the people. There's a fund us link that's at the top, and you go there. It doesn't go through me. I work hard. I do websites and stuff.
sure,
I take care of my family. So you're
right,
not funding me. You're
right,
funding this platform, and you're
right,
funding all the. I told fact checkers that once we continue to grow, they would get love offerings for the hard work that they put in as well. So you're funding this site, and you're funding because I wanted to grow it and be to the point. It's almost like a TMZ, because you were mentioning how the hoax and all of this other stuff that's
right,
going on. Well, how about you have a truther publication or a truther platform that's able to fly out? Like when George Floyd happened,
right,
what if this site was funded and we had, like, a couple $1,000s to spare, and either myself or I can get an independent journalist to go down there, jump on a plane and go to exactly where it happened, go to the street, talk to the people that were in the video. Now you have
right.
what's the question? You have no question on whether it was a hoax or not, because you had a truth or a fellow truther that you've gotten to know that is not tainted by the government,
Right.
not tainted by George Soros, funded by you, able to go on the scene and talk to the people that was in the video recording George Floyd dying.
Right. Wow, that's well said. Absolutely. Yes, this your donations go to a very good cause, like actual investigative journalism that's not tainted by the systemic programming or George Soros or what have you. Yeah, absolutely. I think that is awesome. I really believe in what you're doing, Val. Well, thank you so much for giving me your take on everything, and I really appreciate it. And can we end with a prayer?
No problem.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Father God, for bringing Brother Vol to my life through different podcasts that I listen to, and please bless his publication, Lord, that really will shed light on this issue as well as other issues. Thank you, Lord, that he has a hunger for truth and wanting to expose falsehoods, and that he wants to shine an investigative journalism light on racism and other things like that. Thank you, Lord, that he has a heart for you, God, and I just pray that you would provide for him and his family on a personal level, aside from providing for him on a professional level with regards to the woke journalism publication and his business and what have you. And I just pray that people would have eyes to see and ears to hear, and that people would fall for the race baiting and having a divisive spirit, or I just pray that people in general in America and all over the world would not fall for a spirit of division or anger, offense, or resentment, or bitterness, or antagonism, or hostility uh, between races, and just pray, Lord, that everyone would receive you, Jesus, into their hearts as their Lord and Savior, and realize that you and you alone are the cure, remedy, and solution to racism and prejudice, as you created all people and all folks in black, white, yellow, red, and all the colors of the rainbow, Lord, and the true rainbow. And I thank you, Jesus, and just pray you bless Brother Val and his family, as well as his business ministry. Thank you, Lord, and may you watch over all of us and protect and provide for all of us, especially with regards to current events, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much for listening to the Thai Girl for God radio show. I appreciate that you carved out some time out of your day or night to listen to us. Brother Vall is a very interesting woke journalist, and we both have friends that are every color, nation, tribe, and tongue. I know God has created all of us to live in unity and harmony, but because of our fallen and sinful nature, that's not probable ultimately without His intervention and influence. I'll be praying for you, the listener, and please pray for Brother Vall as he endeavors to develop this publication, as it's a necessary and timely thing in light of today's struggle to separate the truth from falsehood. One thing that was set apart from the interview is that his website will be fact-checking and articles, not just on racism and police force reformation, but all kinds of subjects including religion, politics, paranormal topics, current events, etc. So please check out his website at wokejournalist.com. I will try to put out a podcast every month. God bless and have a great morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are in the world.